Before we get into the video, I wanted to show you guys something real quick. And this was something that I found in my garage. I just thought that it was kind of funny because whenever I find a picture that I haven't seen for years, it just kind of amazes me how far I've gone. But this was a picture that I made of my parents, and I have an updated version right here. I think you guys might like this one. Just gotta roll it off the paper. This is an updated version that I made. I hope you can fit in the frame, but yeah, that's the updated version of the photo. But the reason why I even brought that out is to show you that art is not completely just talent, because obviously I didn't have talent when I was starting out, and I just gained everything that I have now from practice and consistency, learning along the way. And there's a few key things that I want to break down in this video and show you how you can apply it so that you can actually get better at painting. If you want to get better at painting people, this doesn't matter if you're a beginner, if you're experienced and you're just trying to get better. It's going to apply to everybody. And this is advice that I wish I knew way earlier when I was starting out, because I'll save myself a lot of energy, save myself a lot of time as well. So to get started, first thing that you really want to focus on is the materials that you buy. The materials that you buy matter a lot, because when you're starting out, you want to really zone in onto one thing and get really good at it. So the type of paint that you choose from the store matters a lot. And there's different types of paints. There's oil paint, there's watercolor paint, there's acrylic paints, there's a whole bunch of different ones. I don't even know the names of all of them, but there's a ton. You gotta choose one specific paint. And for an absolute beginner, or if you're like a little bit experienced, I'd say get oil paints. Oil paints are the ones that will really give you the best bang for your buck. Oil paints are the ones that all the professionals use, and it's the one that I use. And I really like oil paints because it gives you that soft look when you look at a painting. You know, when you're looking at a painting and it just has like a really smooth look to it, it looks professional. When you look at the Mona Lisa, that one was made out of oil paints as well. So get oil paints, and the oil paints are really easy to learn. Don't think that it's like super tough to learn, and it's a very hard material to use, because like only good people use it. Anybody can use oil paints. They're just a little bit more expensive than acrylic paints, but it's worth the investment and it's worth practice. And really, if you really zone in on oil paints, then you'll get really, really good at painting people that look realistic. To paint people, you only need a few colors. You do not need a full set of colored paints, all right? You only need a few. And the few that you need are, first of all, yellow ochre. Buy this one. Next one that you need is red. After that, you're gonna need burnt umber, and you're gonna need burnt sienna, and lastly, white. You might be thinking, why not get black as well? But really, you don't use black when you're painting people. And really, you can get any single skin tone with these colors right here. This is 1, 2, 5 colors. Any single skin tone. You can get dark skin, you can get light skin, you can get golden skin, you can get any single color just with these few. So don't waste your money on getting like very like specific colors that you think that you might use. You only need these few. Once you get the materials, all right, once you get oil paints, you want to get oil paint brushes. Oil paint specific brushes, you can find this at the section of the art store. It has different zones that have the different brushes. Some brushes are for watercolors, some are for acrylic, just like I said earlier, the different paints. You gotta get the brush that matches the paint, because the thickness of the bristles matters a lot. And oil paint bristles are gonna be thicker because it's harder for it to spread on the canvas with the brush. And as you use more watery paints, the brushes are going to get looser and they're going to flow easier. So if you get oil paint brushes, they're going to be stiffer than other brushes that you buy. So get the brush that matches the paint that you want to use. So now you have your brush, now you have your paints. Now you're gonna need a palette knife. You buy the palette and you're gonna use the palette knife to mix the paints together. And this is very important because you do not want to mix paints just with your brush. You might be doing that right now. You might be thinking that is not a really big deal. But if you're using oil paints, this is very important because sometimes the oil paints, when you mix it with the brush, is not gonna mix as well. And when you're starting to paint on the canvas, then the they'll have like streaks of different color. It's not going to be consistent. Like say you mix green and red together, the when you paint on the canvas, you're going to have some parts of the line that are red, some parts of the line that are green, and some parts of the line that are a mix. So you want to get a palette knife so you can really get consistency whenever you're mixing your colors. And if you're wondering how a palette knife looks, it looks like this. This is what a palette knife looks like. They come in different shapes and sizes. I'll just say to get a pointed one because it makes it easy to get like small amounts of one color and mix it with the other color. When you're mixing the paints with the palette knife like I showed you earlier, all right, if you want to create white skin, all right, like Caucasian, you're gonna use these colors, all right? You're gonna start off with your yellow ochre. You take a little bit of it and you put it on the palette. You're gonna take your burnt sienna as well. You're gonna mix these together. All right, and then that's gonna create like a lightish brown. And after you do that, you're gonna add some white. You're gonna add some white to the palette as well. And you're gonna mix all of these together. And you do not want to be using large amounts. Go small. You do not need a ton of paint to really cover out a full canvas. Just get a small amount and then mix these three together. All right. And depending on how light or how dark you want it, you're gonna have to adjust the amounts that you put. To make it warmer or cooler, you're gonna add a little bit of red. And the red, you only need like a tiny dot of it. You don't need a lot. All right, so just like a tiny splash of red, that's gonna make it warm if you want to focus on warmer areas of the skin, such as the cheeks. But apart from that, you only need a small amount. All right, and now that you have the colors of the skin, now you're gonna work on the underpainting. And the underpainting is a very important stage. And you want to use a color called burnt sienna. All right, you're going to use burnt sienna. That is a part of the colors that you use for the skin as well. You're going to use burnt sienna because burnt sienna is a color that dries pretty quickly and it's not going to really stand out too much once you paint over your underpainting, because the underpainting, if you make it with black, if you make it with a dark color such as blue, when you layer on top of that, is the lines are going to stand out, and you do not want the lines to be visible when you're painting over it. So using burnt sienna is a really good color, and you want to mix it with something called Gamsol. You're going to mix it with something called Gamsol, and this is just paint thinner. You can get different variants of this, such as turpentine. Same amount of paint that you're using for the underpainting, you're going to use like the same amount of Gamsol, and you're going to mix it together with your palette knife, and it should be like a very liquidy and soupy type of consistency, and you want that. But you're going to take it and you're going to use a large brush when you're making your underpainting, and you're just going to trace out the rough edges of your portrait. You do not need to get into very specific details such as the small hairs, the exact like features of the eye, the clothes of the person that they're wearing. You just need to get rough edges, all right? But make sure that you're just getting an outline. Like for me, I'll just get an outline of where my chin is, where my eyes are, where my ears are, the shape of my head. I'll get all of that. You don't need to get into like very small things such as like my individual eyelashes. That's gonna be for later on. All right, and after you get the underpainting, it should just look like like a very rough sketch. It doesn't need to look perfect at all. Don't put too much of your energy into the underpainting. I've done this before, and when you put too much focus just on the early stages, then it messes up the proportions of the picture, and it it actually ends up looking worse when you put too much energy into like the first stages rather than the fine tuning. You're gonna start off very just blurry, broad, but as you go on, what makes a painting good is that you start to add these small details that really make the person stand out and makes it look very realistic. So I wouldn't recommend going in with a small brush. You have to force yourself if you're very like if you're a perfectionist. You need to force yourself to just go loose. Use a large brush such as this. All right, I don't touch any of my smaller brushes until my later stages of painting. So with the soupy consistency, you make your underpainting, you get that done. All right, now what's next? You're gonna mix those colors like I showed you together to get the skin, the color of the skin that you want. And you're gonna mix in less of the Gamsol now. And instead of like 1-to-1 for the underpainting, I would say use like 0.75 and 1. Like use like 3/4 of the amount that you use of the paint for the Gamsol. So you're not going to be using as much because you want to eventually make your layers get thicker and thicker. You do not want to be making your layers the same consistency because it's not going to layer on top of each other and it's not really gonna like actually blend with each other. So you want to use less of the Gamsol when you're layering on top of each other, and then when you get to like the final layers, then you're not using any of it at all. So just mix in like a small amount, but not like too little when you're doing your first coat over the underpainting. All right, you mix it together, use the palette knife. All right, remember that you're not going to be mixing with your brush at all. This is only for putting the paint onto the canvas. So now that you've done that, you're going to start just covering up places where the colors go. All right, so just getting brown where my face is, getting black where my hair is, getting whatever color the background is, getting black for my shirt. You're just going to be doing that. And that is a phase that you call blocking out. Blocking out still isn't perfect, all right? You're just getting the colors where they need to go. And once you do this, then it'll be a little bit easier on the eye for you to see where things go. And I would say that you need to cover up the full picture, all right? Don't just block out one area and then start to like fine tune it. Block out the entire picture. And then once you have it blocked out, then you can start like focusing on smaller things. All right, so now that you're done blocking out, next thing that you want to focus on is the shadows and the highlights. The shadows can be different shades. Sometimes shadows are blue, sometimes shadows are a little bit greenish, sometimes they're like gray, but this is all depending on how the lighting is in your photo that you want to paint. You're gonna get the shadows where they go. So such as like where my eyelids are, there's a shadow right here, there's a shadow underneath my chin, there's a shadow like underneath my nose and under my lip here. You're just gonna you could use a smaller brush than this, but it's still gonna be pretty large. You're gonna use that to get the shadows where they go. All right, and then once you finish getting the shadows where they go, then you're gonna put in the highlights. So this is not completely white yet, but this is like your lightest shades. All right, so if you look at my face, some parts of my face are lighter, some parts of my face are darker, but you're not going in like with the complete whites, like where the light is shining on me. You're not gonna go in with that yet. You're just getting the lighter areas that come before white. So you're gonna put those where they go. You're gonna put the like lighter parts anywhere that you see lighter parts, such as like my nose and all that. And then after you do that, you want to blend your colors together. You want to blend them all together, right? So that you get like a smooth transition. You don't want it to be too blocky. You don't want it to be too messy. This is the part where you can actually start like making things smoother if they're rough. You just start cleaning up those rough edges. And how you do that is just by getting a clean brush, wiping off all the paint that was on your brush before, and you just go in with, you can go in with a circular motion, just blending things together, or you can just go in with a smooth, like a wipe, like this, just to clean up those rough edges that you have. And then after you do the thing, you can start going in with your whites and the detailing as well. You're gonna move on to a smaller brush than the last one that you had, and you're gonna start doing the detailing, such as like the eyes. You're gonna go in with my like the details in my ear, the details in my eyelashes. You're gonna start going in with how my hair is. After you get all of that done, then you should be in a very good place. You should start recognizing how the person looks. This should start looking very realistic. Now is the time that you're gonna go in with the whites on the reflection of my eye, the highlights right here, and like the highlight on my nose. And this was the same time that I would go in with like my black and just go very lightly on the mustache and my like eyebrows and the hair on my chin. Now's the time that I would do that. All right, and then after you do all of that, then you should be good. All right, you should be good now, and you should have a very good portrait. There's nothing more to it, and it's very simple, but it takes some practice to get used to this technique, because we get so used to just drawing with a pencil and then trying to perfect things right away. I want to advise you to to break out of that habit, because it's not really the best way to do things, and it makes things more time consuming. It takes a lot of energy, and it makes painting just harder in general. So don't be afraid to be messy at the start. That's what's going to lay out the foundation. And then as you go on, then you start to tweak in some things, you start blending things together, and it can be scary. I understand. I'm a perfectionist myself, but just like letting myself go on those first couple of stages, and then finally focusing on the details, like once I actually have a base set out, that's what makes it more fun. That's what makes my paintings a lot better, and it made me a lot faster at painting, because just think about it, sketching out everything and trying to get everything perfect in the first run is not really gonna give you the best results. You might be thinking that it's the only way to do it, but I've learned and I had to break out of that habit, and I found out that this is a lot better, and I wish that I've been doing this a lot sooner. So follow those steps, and it's gonna take repetition. The first time you're gonna be uncomfortable. I was very uncomfortable the first time that I did this, and I wanted to go back to my old style. But after you do it, you're gonna notice a difference in your paintings. It's gonna be visible, and you're gonna start to adopt this method, and you're gonna be wondering, why haven't I been doing this the entire time? So that is how you can get good at painting people very easily, just by following these steps. All right, so I want to thank you all for watching this video, and I'll see you all in the next one.